Welcome, investigator. Evil is on the rise. Crime is escalating. Our mission is to eliminate the crime by exposing evil, examine why it manifests, and highlight the brave souls that confront it every day. Join us as we work together to bring justice to every victim. Welcome to All Things Crime. Here's your host, Jared Bradley.
Hey everybody, it's Jared. Welcome to another episode of All Things Crime. I'm your host, and I have an amazing guest today with me. His name's Kenneth Strange, and this guy has all sorts of accolades, but he's also an author, and so we're going to talk about his book. It's called A Cop's Son, One G-Man's Fight Against Jihad, Global Fraud, and the Cartels. And you know, in order to have a book that's even titled that way, you got to have all sorts of experience. And so we're going to get into some of Kenneth's experience with different law enforcement agencies, including, the FBI, and then some of his experiences, you know, fighting the cartels and things like that. So I'm really excited about it. And Kenneth, welcome to the show.
Jared, thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. I appreciate you coming on, especially by the time everybody's reading this, they'll be somewhat recovered from eating too much at Thanksgiving, I'm sure. But, you know, that's actually, as we're recording this, that's tomorrow. So happy Thanksgiving, so I don't forget.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
You're in California, correct?
Yes, I'm in Thousand Oaks, California, maybe a stone's throw away from the Pacific Ocean.
Wow. Well, there's worse places to be, that's for sure. You know, it's funny, as I was getting out of the Army, I actually got offered a position with a pharmaceutical company in Thousand Oaks, California. And I got looking at what they were going to pay me as a brand new rep and what it cost out there. And I was like, man, I can't do that. I got a wife and young daughter to support. Like, I'd be in an apartment at best. And
well, Jared, let me guess, that company wouldn't be Amgen Pharmaceutical, would it? Amgen?
No, actually it wasn't. Although Amgen, that's one of the ones that I think everybody wanted to go to. So back before they destroyed their reputation.
Yeah. No, Amgen is actually, it's in our town.
Oh, very nice. Well, like I said, Thousand Oaks is absolutely beautiful, and I hope you enjoy things out there. Christmas is a little different though. You don't, your chance of getting a white Christmas is pretty low.
No, slim to none. You'd have to, jump in your car and drive maybe 2.5, 3 hours, and you'd be in the mountains.
Right. Well, I just have to look out my window, and usually around Christmas time, there's all sorts of white out there. So
nice, very nice.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to come visit Utah someday when you're on your book tour.
I'd love to. It's a wonderful state, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So let's get into you and your career. And can I just, as I was I have to read this. I think the audience would be interested in this. And this is off of Barnes and Noble. So I think out of all of the descriptions, I think this one is one of the best. So it said, Ken served with 3 federal agencies pursuing criminals and bad actors, which is always awesome. That was input from me, by the way. Those agencies were the FBI, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and the Department of Justice. His service to those agencies brought him into conflict with jihadists, the cartels, and international perpetrators of fraud. So, I mean, I could read more, but Ken, first of all, how do you even end up with 3 different, federal agencies like that?
That's a terrific question. And, I suppose it has something to do with my nature. I guess I've been described as a bit of a gypsy, moving on to, I see something I think I like, and all of a sudden I'm there. But, I guess that's also a part of curiosity. It's, taking a chance on something, just a few kind of turns within my life, meeting certain people that kind of opened doors for me, where I would close one door and then the next door would open, and I'd say, hey, why not? This sounds like a pretty cool chance to do something different, to learn something different.
Oh, interesting. So I guess, which one was first, the FBI?
Yeah. I started out with the FBI, although law enforcement wasn't. I didn't start off wanting to be in law enforcement. Actually, I had envisioned myself in academia as a teacher, and that's how I actually started out. I was a high school Spanish teacher. I did that for a few years in New York, and then I went overseas to the Middle East, to Saudi Arabia. I taught English as a second language in Riyadh. My first contract was with a school for the royal family. So I did that work about 6 years in the Middle East, and it wasn't until I got back to the United States, went on for my MBA out in Arizona, that the FBI came to our campus and they were recruiting. I actually sat down with a fella from Salt Lake City. I remember he was a Mormon, and we spoke, and he said, we're looking, we at the FBI, we're looking for people like you with your background. You speak Spanish, you're bilingual Spanish, and you can come in under that program if you pass the test. You also have some, experiences in the Middle East, and that might serve us because we're seeing this international terrorism kind of burgeoning and maybe heading our way to the United States. So, think about it. And I did. I thought about it, and I said, you know what, I'll get into the application process, and that's what I did. And eventually that led me into the FBI.
Interesting. So, how much Arabic do you speak?
So I have, just it's basic Arabic. I could barely write my name in Arabic, but I did take courses in graduate school, Middle East politics, Arabic as well. So a little bit, enough to make some small talk, which could get me into trouble with jihadists.
Well, I'd say just about anything can get you in trouble with jihadists, but yeah,
That's a good point.
it's interesting that the FBI actually recruits a ton of people out of Utah.
Oh yeah.
Because of so many LDS missionaries, and
Yes.
in fact, I was one.
Oh,
I went
okay.
to Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Japan on my mission, so
Oh,
I used to speak pretty decent Japanese. But Japan isn't really known for creating jihadists or terrorist types, and so
Yeah.
it didn't really apply. But
Although Jared, I'd have to point out, you mentioned Japan. We did have one case in my field office, in my squad, because I was working with a squad called C-10. It was a Joint Terrorism Task Force squad, and as soon as I got onto the squad, and this was high profile, and it was, I like to use the term high octane squad. It was these men and women that were in over our heads with all kinds of, I kind of call it now, I call it like a terrorism candy store in this squad, because we had everything from all over the world coming at us right here just outside New York City and Newark, New Jersey. But one of the cases was a Japanese Red Army bomber, and we had that case percolating. So, he wasn't a jihadist per se, but he was traveling to the Middle East and doing his training there.
yeah. Well, I need to put an asterisk by that. Of course, there's crazy people in every community, but I mean, you had that sarin gas guy that released the sarin gas, and
yes,
in the
right.
subway.
That's right, in Tokyo, right?
Yeah, he was some kind of a weird fundamentalist, and
Yes.
good thing he didn't know anything about sarin gas, and that was actually my specialty in the military. I was an NBC officer. And so, yeah, that was one of our case studies. We were, going through that, and say, if that genius had known that sarin gas sinks, most of it actually went down by the tracks. Otherwise, he could have. It was, with the exception of how the gas was deployed, I think it would have killed probably 10x what it actually did. So.
Yes, I remember reading about that. The fella that we had was Yu Kikamura, and he was actually caught on the New Jersey Turnpike by a New Jersey state trooper named Bob Saplinski, who ended up on our squad. We had a Secret Service agent in the squad. We had several New Jersey state troopers, Bob Saplinski being one of them. And again, his fame was taking down Yu Kikamura. And Kikamura had a bomb in his car, and he was on his way to Times Square. He was going to put it at I think a USO office in, I think downtown Manhattan, something like that. Mm-hmm. And he caught him.
Wow. It's pretty amazing. I look back at our history, and this is just kind of a tangent, but I look back at the history, and it's not just the U.S., it's pretty much everywhere. People that are just trying to do the right thing, they're just trying to live their lives, and, especially God-fearing people. And it just seems that in little things, there's these little divine interventions. I don't know if you can see behind me, but I was with the 101st Airborne with the military.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I see Airborne there. I see the Airborne.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was quite the legacy to live up to. And so, I've always been a history nerd, and I love studying World War II. And when you look at different battles, especially like the Battle of the Bulge, but even D-Day, those kind of things, there's so many little mistakes that the other side made that you just have to look at it and you go, if that wasn't divine intervention, I don't know what is.
Right.
And then you look at things, even 9/11. Yeah, we lost almost 3,000, citizens, and that was a horrible, horrible day. But considering the World Trade Center between the two towers had 50 to 60,000 people that worked in there.
Yes.
It could have been easily 10x worse than what it was. So
there you go. Could have been a lot worse. No, you're absolutely right. In the case of Kikamura, Saplinski noted that he was, I think he was at the Lombardi truck stop over there on the turnpike, and he was acting erratically. When he saw Saplinski's car, he started to, get nervous, and he would get out of his car, get back in the car, get out of the car, and he was just exhibiting all these, signs of nervousness, extreme nervousness. So that's when Bob engaged him, and it got worse. And then he, can I look at your car, and that type of thing. And he saw the wires in the back seat, and then they popped the trunk, and there's a bomb. So, put him in cuffs, and yeah, it was, had he not seen this guy acting nervously, who knows, right?
Yeah. Well, again, that's just one of those things that you look at it and you go, what was it that made, is it Kikamura?
Yeah, Yu Kikamura. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that little thing, what is it that attracted his attention that prevented who knows what, that could have killed thousands of people if it was placed right. So
exactly.
The fortunate thing, I think, as we battle jihadists and some of the crazy people, granted, there's times when you have like the Oklahoma City bombing where, he actually understood a little bit about the building and the structure of it and how much explosives he needed. And so he caused a lot of really bad damage there.
Yes.
But,
yeah,
fortunately, most of these fundamentalists don't really have, at least the people executing it. It's like the planners, they have all sorts of knowledge, but they don't usually recruit, electrical engineers to take their bombs out and things like that. So yeah. Anyway, there's all sorts of little, I don't want to call them blessings, but just little things that make it so. Yeah, it's usually a horrible. It doesn't matter even if you lose one life. But,
right.
Could
be
you
much
can
worse.
just go even the Boston Marathon bombing.
Right.
How much worse could that have been had they understood explosives and
Right.
that kind of stuff a little better? So
You're absolutely right. I guess some of it, some of that can be credited to these lone wolves who are kind of, doing it because of the ideology, and they're whipped up into a frenzy, but they're not professional bombers. You're right.
thanks for joining us. Your attention today brings us one step closer to exposing and eliminating the evil that brings crime to our communities. Hit subscribe and share this episode. Together, we will bring justice to every victim.